Hey, friends! Barkey Dog here, back with another movie review. We all like pirate movies and Robin Hood movies, right? Well, I have a story for you that combines the two. This time we're talking about Dr. Sin, the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. This tale was based on a book written by Russell Thorndike in 1915. There were 3 film versions of this story. In all 3, creative license was employed in order to turn Dr. Sin into more of a hero and less of a villain. In the books, he's not so nice. But first, let's take a look at the actual story of Dr. Sin, the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. What the hell was that all about? Christopher Sin was an Oxford scholar who excelled at sailing, riding, fencing, and all of that. He married a hot Spanish chick named Imogen and settled down in the small coastal village of Dymchurch to lead the life of a country vicar. But then, one of his friends seduced Imogen, and they ran off together, leading Sin on a years-long chase in search of revenge against the pair. One thing led to another, and Sin turned pirate. Eventually, he got tired of being a pirate, but he was so successful, his men refused to let him leave. So, with his one compatriot, a ship's carpenter named Mips, he arranged for an accident in the Powder magazine, which blew up and eliminated the entire crew except for the captain, Mips, and one guy who escaped only because Sin cut him up and left him for dead on an island. After some more adventures in search of revenge, he turned pirate again, this time going by the moniker of Nathaniel Clegg. He carved a bloodthirsty path all over the high seas. He was hella successful, and when he wanted to retire, again, his crew wouldn't let him, and he was worried about witnesses who could identify him. So he and Mips, you guessed it, set up another accident in the Powder magazine. This eliminated all witnesses to his piratical past, but there was still that one guy out there he thought he was rid of. Clegg, or Dr. Sin, was caught by the authorities, though, and sentenced to hang. But along came the former friend who ran off with Imogen, who had since died, and Sin forced this guy to swap places with him and go to the gallows, in return for Sin looking after the daughter the lovers had. Anyway, he settles down again in Dymchurch, no one the wiser that he was this bloodthirsty pirate who everyone thought was dead. Mips became a cabinet maker in town and the church sexton. Sin was made vicar by the local squire, who becomes the foster father of the baby girl, also named Imogen. Now, at that time, smuggling was a big thing. Goods from France would be brought over and landed, and the smugglers would take profit from selling the goods without bothering with import taxes. The government didn't like that and were determined to put a stop to the smuggling. Dr. Sin took over the local gang and became the Scarecrow, his brains and planning outwitting the excisemen every time. And instead of enriching himself, he quietly used his share of the profits to help the community. One day, 10 years later, along comes a new officer to bust up the smuggling, and with him is that one crewman Sin thought he had gotten rid of. So now the fat's in the fire, and his secret is out. At the end of the book, spoiler alert, Dr. Sin dies. Now, Thorndike was happy with this book, and it was very popular. popular enough that he eventually realized killing off Dr. Sin was a mega dumbass thing to do. So he wrote a bunch of prequels about Dr. Sin as the Scarecrow and as a pirate, all of which sold very well. So the first book is really the last book, I guess. Anyway, movies were made, none of which really follow the books much at all. In all three, Sin wound up being cast as a Robin Hood type of figure, robbing from the rich, or in this case the tax collectors, to give to the poor, and basically fight for justice. The first movie version was from 1937 and starred George Arliss, an actor not well known today perhaps, but very popular at the time. This was his last screen role. In this one, they eliminate the subplot of the lovers running off and Sin forcing his rival to take his place on the gallows. So in this case, he was hung, but the rope used was treated with acid by his friends. So while the authorities did indeed hang him, it didn't take. But he was hanging there for a bit before he was rescued, and he claims the old Clegg died and a new man was born, one who would try to make up for his past. Maybe. In this one, Imogen is his daughter. There are some good British actors in this. Aside from Arliss, the only names you might know are Margaret Lockwood, who plays Imogen, and John Loder, who plays her love interest. Loder was in the Alfred Hitchcock movie Sabotage, and appeared in John Ford's How Green Was My Valley, and Now Voyager with Bette Davis. Then we have a version from Hammer Studios called Captain Clegg, or Night Creatures. This one stars Peter Cushing as Dr. Sin, or in this case, Dr. Bliss. See, Disney had locked up the rights to the name Dr. Sin, so Hammer couldn't use that. They used just about everything else, though. They also employ something from the book, not well shown in the other versions, namely the luminous paint they used to make the Scarecrow and his men and the horses look supernatural on their late-night rides. Oliver Reed is in this as Harry, a love interest. Yvonne Romaine plays Imogen. She was in Corridors of Blood and appeared in another Hammer production, Curse of the Werewolf, also with Oliver Reed. We also have Patrick Allen, a great actor with a great voice. He was in tons of stuff, including Dial M for Murder, and he played Colonel Sebastian Moran in the Granada Sherlock Holmes series. He was also the narrator of the first series of Blackadder. Well, I remember him best from this movie, where they mashed 2 episodes of Space 1999 together. He appears as a member of the International Lunar Commission in segments that were added to pad out the running time. But I liked him in it.
The correct decision will be taken. And taken by Commander Koenig.
This version is probably the most accurate to the book. Finally, we have perhaps the best known of the versions of Dr. Sin, namely The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh from 1963, made by Walt Disney. Now, this one doesn't have the escaped crewman or the whole revenge thing. Instead, Dr. Sin is very much cast as a Robin Hood type. Smuggling, yes, but helping the community and thwarting the excise men with his brilliant planning. He also helps the downtrodden, and he doesn't kill anybody. Imogen is the daughter of the squire, and the second in command of the local garrison is her love interest. This version also touches on the pending American Revolution. Dr. Sin, obviously, on the side of the colonists in America, and basically the fight for freedom from oppression. The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh is very much a shorthand version of Dr. Sin, as you might expect. Disney released this in 2 forms. First as a 90-minute standalone movie, and then split into 3 parts for his television series, The Wonderful World of Color. If you watch it that way, there are extra scenes that help flesh out the story. The cast here is first rate. We have the always amazing Patrick McGoohan as Dr. Sin, and he's perfect, really. Arliss and Cushing are also great and put their own spin on Sin. But McGoohan, while maybe too young compared to the character in the book, just brings something extra. Michael Horndon plays the Squire, a very familiar face and voice. He did a lot of great voice work. George Cole is here as Mipps. He was the young Ebenezer Scrooge in the definitive version of A Christmas Carol, the Alistair Sim one from 1951. And then we have Jeffrey Keane as the villain of the piece, the general tasked with breaking the Scarecrow's smuggling operation. You likely know him best as the minister in the Roger Moore James Bond films. But that role was minor. Here he's front and center much of the time, and he brings a swagger and arrogance to the part. I loved him in this. The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh was released on DVD as one of the offerings in the Walt Disney Treasures series, which came packed with extras and in a tin box. I have several of those, but stupidly never picked this one up. Today it goes for hundreds of dollars on eBay. I can't afford to lay down that many bones for it, but I wish I could. All three movies have their charms, to be sure. The 1937 version has a great old-school British cast. The Hammer version from 1962 has Cushing and Reed. Both have a degree of accuracy in the story. But of the three, probably the best version is the one from Disney. I know, right? The Hammer version is fair, sure, but while the Disney one is the least accurate, it just has so many good elements in it, it can't be overlooked, including the fact that it was the only version shot on location in Dymchurch on the southern coast of England, where Russell Thorndike set the story. It's the best looking of the three. McGoohan is wonderful, as you'd expect. The Scarecrow costume is fantastic, and it all comes off first rate. Well directed and well photographed. It's not as faithful to the books, but it is an entertaining adventure. Believe it or not, Disney used to be able to do this. You won't lose out by watching any of these, though, so why not give Dr. Sin a spin? You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.